The woman who gave me my first kiss walked into a hotel bar 18 years too late, looked straight at me like she'd been expecting me, and said, "Owen Parker, you still owe me something." I nearly choked on an olive. I was 31 years old enough to have a decent apartment, a steady job as a radio producer, and a car that only made one suspicious noise if the weather was damp. I was also old enough to know that when a woman from your past appears under warm bar lights, wearing a black coat, red lipstick, and an expression like she knows exactly where you hid the embarrassing parts of yourself, you do not act cool. You pretend to. Do I? I asked. She slid onto the bar stool beside mine. You don't remember? I remembered too much. Bree Keene had been 13, golden-haired, fearless, and completely out of my league. I had been 13, too tall, too quiet, and shaped like a question mark. At a summer carnival behind St. Mark's during a game of truth or dare that should have been outlawed by any adult with mercy, Bree kissed me behind the funnel cake stand. My first kiss. 3 seconds. Maybe 4. Then her friends laughed, somebody clapped, and Bree ran off like she'd done something reckless and hilarious. The next Monday at school, I tried to smile at her. She looked right through me. That was the part that stayed. Not the kiss. Not really. The disappearing afterward. Since then, I'd become the kind of man who could talk for a living, but still hesitated when a woman got too close. I produced a late-night call-in show in Denver, the kind where strangers told the truth into the dark because they didn't have to look anyone in the eye. I was good at helping other people sound brave. I was less impressive when it came to myself. And now, Bree Keene was sitting beside me at the Copper Finch bar, inside the hotel where my station was holding its annual media mixer, acting like she hadn't been the origin story of half my romantic caution. You look different, I said, because apparently my mouth had chosen bland honesty over survival. So do you. Her eyes moved over my face, not rudely, carefully. You grew into the cheekbones. I laughed before I could stop myself. That's the kindest way anyone has ever described late puberty. She smiled and it hit me with an unfair amount of force. Not because she looked exactly the same, she didn't. The girl in my memory had been all sunshine and sharp elbows. This woman had quieter gravity. Darker hair cut to her collarbone, a small scar near her eyebrow, a silver ring on her thumb. She looked less like a memory and more like someone who had survived becoming real. The bartender came by. Another? Before I could answer, she said, "He'll have water." I blinked at her. She lifted one shoulder. You're holding your drink like a prop. Either you're leaving soon or hiding. That obvious? Only to people paying attention. That should have annoyed me. Instead, it made my chest tighten. Because the thing about being seen is that you can resent it and crave it at the same time. The mixer buzzed behind us. Sales guys laughing too loudly. Local anchors pretending not to check themselves in the mirror behind the liquor shelves. Publicists floating through the room with business cards and perfume. I'd come because my boss said networking in the same tone doctors use for colonoscopy. I planned to stay 40 minutes, make 3 acceptable jokes, and escape. Then she walked in. Are you here for the conference? I asked. Sort of. She turned her glass slowly between her hands. I'm managing the event design for the hotel this week. That explains why this place suddenly looks expensive. It was always expensive. Now it has better lighting. There she is, I said. Who? Bree Keene, queen of devastating comments. Her smile faltered. Just a little. But I noticed. For a second, the noise of the bar seemed to dip. She looked down at her drink, then back at me, and something in her face shifted from playful to careful. You really think I'm Bree? I stared at her. The name had been sitting between us like a glass we were both pretending not to knock over. You're not. No. My stomach dropped in a ridiculous teenage way. She tilted her head. I'm Mara. Mara Keene, the twin, the quieter one. A memory surfaced so fast it felt like a hand, reaching out of water. A girl at the edge of the carnival lights. Same face as Bree, but not the same expression. Watching. Always watching. Carrying a sketchbook. Saying almost nothing. The kind of girl a nervous 13-year-old boy noticed, then convinced himself he hadn't because Bree was the one everyone was supposed to notice. Mara, I said slowly. There it is. Her smile came back, softer this time. Recognition. I'm sorry, I didn't. Most people didn't. She didn't say it bitterly, that made it worse. Bree was easier to remember. I rubbed the back of my neck. In my defense, you two were identical. In my defense, we weren't. That made me laugh again, but she didn't. Not fully. Then she leaned closer, close enough that I caught the clean scent of rain on her coat and something warm underneath, like vanilla or cedar. Her knee brushed mine under the bar. It was accidental, maybe, but neither of us moved away. You said I still owe you something, I said, mostly because silence was starting to feel dangerous. Mara's eyes held mine. I did. For what? Her thumb traced the rim of her glass. For remembering it wrong. My pulse changed. Behind us, someone called my name from the mixer, but I didn't turn. I couldn't. Mara had reached into a sealed room in my past and opened a window. What exactly did I remember wrong? I asked. She looked at my mouth for half a second. Just half. Long enough to make every sensible thought in my head step politely into traffic. Then she said, Your first kiss? I went still. Mara's voice dropped, not dramatic, just honest. It wasn't Bree behind the funnel cake stand, Owen. The bar noise blurred. My 13-year-old self stood under carnival lights again, heart punching his ribs, eyes closed, believing the prettiest girl in school had chosen him for one impossible second. Mara watched my face as the truth landed. That was me, she said, and I've spent 18 years wondering if you'd want a second one. For a moment, I forgot how bars worked. Glasses clinked, people laughed, ice rattled in a shaker. Somewhere behind me, a man from sales was telling the same golf story he'd been telling since 2019. And I sat there staring at Mara Keen, trying to rebuild one of the oldest memories I had. You? I said. She nodded once. But Bree dared herself, Mara said. Then she panicked. I blinked. Bree panicked? That surprises you? At 13, Bree walked across the cafeteria on a table because someone said she wouldn't. She was brave when people were watching. Mara's smile was sad at the edges, not always when they weren't. My brain began rearranging the pieces. The carnival, the game, the laughter, the way Bree had grabbed my hand and pulled me behind the funnel cake stand without saying much. I'd thought she was being mysterious, cool, but maybe she'd been quiet because she wasn't Bree at all. You switched places? I asked. Bree begged me. Mara looked down. She said it was just a stupid dare. She said you'd never know the difference. She asked me the way she always asked me for things, which is to say, like she already knew what I was going to say. That should have stung. It did. But not the way I expected. Because I remembered the kiss differently now, the trembling fingers holding my wrist, the tiny inhale right before, the way she'd whispered, "Close your eyes," like she was the nervous one, and the bandage. There had been a square of gauze taped to the inside of her forearm, and the skin around it had been shiny and pink. I was 13 and being kissed for the first time in my life, and I never once asked what had happened to her arm. I had spent 18 years thinking the girl who kissed me forgot me the next day. Now I was realizing the girl who kissed me might have been the one I forgot. I tried to talk to you afterward, Mara said. My throat tightened. You did? Monday, by the bike racks. The memory came slowly, cruelly. A girl with Bree's face standing near the chain link fence, clutching a sketchbook to her chest. I had been looking over her shoulder, waiting for the other twin. The louder twin. The one I thought mattered. You asked if I liked the carnival, I said. Mara's eyes lifted. And I said... I closed my eyes. Ashamed before the words even came. I said, "Tell Bree I said hi." She gave a small laugh without humor. That was the moment I decided romance was a defective concept. Mara, it's fine. It's not. No, it really is. She reached for her glass, then seemed to change her mind. We were kids. Kids are experts at hurting each other by accident. I wanted to apologize in a way that could travel backward through time and find that girl by the bike racks. I wanted to tell her she hadn't been invisible. I wanted to tell her I was sorry for being 13 and stupid, and so desperate to be chosen that I didn't notice who had done the choosing. Instead, I said, "I'm sorry." She studied me. Then she nodded, and somehow that nod felt more intimate than forgiveness. Behind us, my boss appeared with two conference badges swinging from his fist. "Owen, there you are." Carl Bell had the energy of a man who thought sleep was a rumor. "I need you to meet a sponsor. Big money, enormous teeth. Come on." I didn't move. Carl looked from me to Mara, then performed the rapid calculation of a man realizing he'd interrupted either networking or fate. "Oh," he said. "Hello?" Mara smiled professionally. "Hi." Carl's eyes narrowed slightly at her face. "Have we met?" "No," Mara said too quickly. I noticed. Carl didn't, or pretended not to. "Well, Owen, 2 minutes." He pointed at me. "Don't disappear." When he left, the air between Mara and me changed. "What was that?" I asked. "What?" "You just went pale when Carl looked at you." "I didn't." "You design lighting for a living. Don't lie about color." That earned me a reluctant smile, but it vanished almost immediately. Mara slid off the bar stool. "I should get back to work." "Wait." I stood too. "Did I say something wrong?" "No." She tugged the belt of her coat tighter, though she wasn't leaving the hotel. This was impulsive. What was? Coming over here. "Mara, you asked me if I wanted a second kiss, then revealed my childhood was built on a clerical error? You don't get to call that impulsive and vanish." Her eyes flashed. "I didn't reveal it to hurt you." "I know." "Do you?" "Yes." She looked toward the lobby where hotel staff moved between arrangements of white flowers and gold chairs. Beyond them, a photographer tested his flash near a sign that read, "Hartwell Community Foundation. Gala tomorrow night." Mara saw me notice it. Her shoulders tightened. "That's the event you're designing?" I asked. "Yes." "My station's covering that gala." "I know." The words landed strangely. "You knew I'd be here tonight," I said. Mara didn't answer. The old part of me, the cautious part, stepped forward. "Mara," she exhaled. "I saw your name on the media list." "So this wasn't coincidence?" "No." The honest answer should have comforted me. It didn't. "Why?" I asked. She looked at me then, really looked, and the playfulness from earlier was gone. "Because Bree is coming tomorrow." I felt my spine go stiff. I hadn't seen Bree Keene since the fall after that summer, when her family left town in the middle of a scandal nobody explained and everybody whispered about. "Okay," I said slowly. "Why does that matter?" Mara's fingers curled around the back of the bar stool. "Because she's not coming as a guest." The lobby doors opened, letting in a blast of cold air and a cluster of people in formal coats. Mara glanced toward them as if expecting a ghost. "She's coming to make an announcement," Mara said. "What kind of announcement?" Before she could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Carl. "Need you in ballroom now. Foundation chair wants pre-interview. Name, Brianna Keene." My hand went cold around the phone. Mara read my face and whispered, "She doesn't go by Bree anymore." I looked up. Across the lobby, a woman stepped from the elevator in a cream suit, surrounded by staff and cameras. Same face, different storm. Mara leaned close, her voice barely audible. "Owen, whatever she tells you tomorrow, don't believe the version where I'm the villain. There are sentences that make normal people ask follow-up questions. Don't believe the version where I'm the villain was one of them." But before I could say anything, Carl appeared at my elbow like he'd been summoned by professional panic. "Owen, ballroom, now." He glanced at Mara, then lowered his voice badly. "The Brianna Keene is giving us 10 minutes before the network affiliates swarm her." Mara stepped back. I turned to her. "Don't leave." Her mouth tightened. "I have a job to do." "So do I." "That's what I'm afraid of." Then she walked away through the lobby, her black coat moving behind her like a closing curtain. Carl grabbed my sleeve. "Was that Mara Keene?" I stopped. "You said you didn't know her." I said, "Have we met?" Different thing. "Carl." He looked uncomfortable, which was rare. Carl usually treated discomfort like a weak intern. Years ago, there was a local story, he said. Before your time here, a Keene family, missing money, fire, something about a scholarship fund. A fire? In their house, I think, or office. I don't know, the kind of mess rich people have lawyers erase. He pushed me toward the ballroom. Ask fewer questions until after we get the interview. The ballroom had been transformed into the kind of elegance that makes you aware of your shoes. Tall arrangements of white branches, candlelight trapped in glass, a stage at the front with a podium and the Hartwell Foundation crest glowing behind it. And in the center of it all stood Brianna Keene. Bree, not the girl from the cafeteria table, not the queen of dares and laughter. This woman was polished into something almost reflective. Cream suit, diamond studs, hair swept back, smile precise enough to cut ribbon. When she saw me, she tilted her head. "Owen Parker," she said. "I wondered if you'd come." Second time that night. Apparently the Keene sisters had been collecting my name like evidence. "You remember me?" I asked. "Of course." Her smile warmed by 1 degree. "You were Mara's little crush." I felt the words land exactly where she meant them to. Carl made a strangled sound that might have been delight. "Great history. Love history. Let's mic up." Brianna's assistant clipped a small microphone to her lapel while I took my recorder from my jacket. My hands moved automatically, but my head was still in the bar with Mara. "Before we start," Brianna said, "I should tell you I'm announcing a major donation tomorrow night. The Keene Family Restoration Grant. $5 million toward rebuilding arts programs in public schools." "That's significant," I said. "It is." She folded her hands. "And personal. Because of your family's history." For the first time, the perfect smile cracked. Carl shot me a look that said, "Please don't set fire to the sponsor." Brianna recovered fast. Because my sister loved art. Loved. Not loves. My grip tightened on the recorder. "Mara is here," I said. Brianna blinked once. "Yes, I know." "You said loved." "I meant as a child." "No, you didn't." Silence dropped around us. Even Carl stopped breathing. Brianna's eyes sharpened. There she was, the girl who could walk across the table because everyone was watching. "I see you still have that little habit," she said softly. "What habit?" "Believing the saddest person in the room." I turned off the recorder. Carl whispered, "Owen, I will sell your chair." But Brianna only smiled. "You want a story?" she asked. "Here's one. My sister has spent her life turning herself into the victim of choices she made." "What choices?" "She stole from the foundation account our father managed. When he found out, there was a fight. That night, the records burned." The fire Carl mentioned. Her gaze flicked toward him, then back to me. "Mara disappeared for 3 days afterward. When she came back, she said she couldn't remember anything." I thought of Mara's scar near her eyebrow. Was she hurt? We all were. Brianna's voice hardened. "My father lost his career. My mother lost her reputation. I lost every college recommendation tied to our name. Mara lost nothing because Mara was fragile, and fragile people are never questioned." Every sentence sounded rehearsed. Not fake exactly, more dangerous than fake. Practiced until it became true to her. "If this happened years ago," I said, "why bring it up now?" "Because she's been contacting donors." Brianna stepped closer, whispering, suggesting my grant money is dirty. Suggesting I built my career on what our father stole. "Did he?" Her smile vanished. There it was. A door opening. Before she could answer, the ballroom lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then every screen on the stage flashed from the foundation crest to a black and white image. A scanned photograph. Two girls at 13, identical at first glance, standing in a carnival light. One in a yellow jacket, one in blue. On the blue jacket near the zipper was a small embroidered silver star. My breath caught. The girl behind the funnel cake stand had worn blue. I remembered my nervous fingers touching that star when she kissed me. A new image appeared. A newspaper clipping from 18 years ago. Foundation funds missing. Keene home office, damaged in fire. Then audio crackled through the ballroom speakers. A young girl crying. I did it, Mara. I took the key. Dad will kill me if he knows. Please, please say it was you. Brianna went white. Carl whispered, Is this part of the program? The audio continued. Mara's younger voice shaking. Bree, there's smoke. Then a man shouting in the background. Then glass breaking. Then the recording cut off. The screens went black. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Brianna looked at the projection booth with murder in her eyes, and there, behind the glass, stood Mara. Not hiding? Her hand rested on the controls. Her face was pale but steady. Brianna whispered, You kept it. Mara's voice came through the ballroom speakers, quiet and clear. No, she said. Owen did. Every face in the ballroom turned toward me. I actually looked behind myself because guilt makes idiots of us all. What? I said. Mara's voice came again through the speakers. The tape was in your carnival prize. My mind went blank. Then, like a match struck in a dark room, I saw it. A plastic blue rocket? I'd won it that night at the ring toss after missing every bottle except the one that counted. It had a screw-off bottom and enough room inside for a kid to hide gum, coins, secrets. After the kiss, the girl in blue had pressed it into my hands. Hold this for me, she'd whispered. I thought she meant until Monday. I thought she forgot. My mother had kept a box of my childhood junk in the garage for years. Report cards, baseball cards, a cracked yo-yo, that stupid rocket. No, Brianna said, but the words sounded weak. Mara stepped out of the projection booth and into the ballroom. You remembered the kiss wrong, she said. I'm hoping I remembered you right. I stared at her. You knew I had it? I hoped, she swallowed. I wasn't sure until tonight. That's why you found me. Mara flinched. It was small, but I saw it. That hurt more than it should have. Brianna recovered first. People like her always do. Shock only visited, performance lived there. This is absurd, she said, voice rising. A manipulated recording played at a private rehearsal by my unstable sister? The assistant near her began whispering into a phone. Carl looked at me with the expression of a man watching either his career die or win an award. I held up my hands. I don't have any tape. Not here, Mara said. Then what did you just play? 40 seconds. She didn't look away. That's all I've ever had. Your father copied it for me the night I came to your house on a cassette off his workbench, and his tape ran out before mine did. What you heard is the part where my sister asks me to take the blame. That's not nothing. On its own, it's two 13-year-olds crying in a kitchen. Her lawyers will call it a fight between children. Her jaw tightened. It doesn't have our father in it. And the original does. The original kept running. The disappointment in my chest sharpened into anger. So you don't actually know it still exists. I know I gave it to you. You gave me a toy when we were 13, Mara. The carnival was 9 days after the fire, she said, and the room went still again. I still had stitches under my hair and a burn on my arm you never asked about. I knew Bree had started it by accident, trying to burn the ledger pages. I knew our father was going to make me say I did it because I was the quiet one, the difficult one, the one nobody would fight for. Brianna snapped, You have no idea what Dad was going to do. Mara turned to her. He did. Brianna said nothing. He stood in my hospital room and told me if I loved this family, I'd be confused. He said memory was unreliable after trauma. He said Bree had a future. Brianna's eyes glistened, but not enough. Mara looked at me then, and her courage cracked. I didn't come for a kiss, Owen. Not only. I came because tomorrow she's going to stand on that stage and use stolen money to become untouchable. The room hummed with silence. My whole past rearranged again, but this time I didn't have the luxury of being just wounded. I had become useful. Where would the rocket be? Mara asked. I thought of my mother's house in Fort Collins. Thought of the plastic storage bins labeled by year because she believed organization was the same as love. At my mom's house, I said. Carl found his voice. That's an hour away. 47 minutes if you disrespect speed limits, I said. Brianna laughed once. You're all insane. Even if this toy exists, even if some ancient tape is inside, chain of custody is a joke. No one will publish it. Carl's eyes narrowed. It was the first time all night I saw him look less like a manager and more like a journalist. We won't publish anything unverified, he said. But we can verify. Brianna pointed at Mara. She broke into the AV system. I designed the ballroom setup, Mara said. I used my login. That recording is theft. No, Mara replied. It's a confession. Brianna's mask slipped. You think one tape fixes you? She hissed. You think Owen Parker hears your sad little story and suddenly you're not the girl who vanished for 3 days? Tell him where you were, Mara. Mara froze. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Brianna smiled, slow and cruel. You left that part out? I turned to Mara. What does she mean? Mara's face changed in a way I didn't understand at first. Not guilt, fear. Brianna stepped closer, lowering her voice, but not enough. Tell him what you did after the fire. Mara, I said. She looked at me with eyes full of an old, cornered kind of pain. I went to your house, she whispered. My house? I was scared. I didn't know where else to go. I tried to picture 13-year-old Mara, injured and terrified, standing outside my family's split-level home. I don't remember that. You weren't there. Her lips trembled. Your father was. My body went cold. My father had died 6 years ago, a decent man, I'd always said. A quiet man. A man who fixed radios in the garage and never raised his voice unless the Broncos were losing. What about him? I asked. Mara closed her eyes. Brianna answered for her. Your father knew. That's the part she keeps leaving out. No, Mara said quickly. He tried to help me. Brianna laughed. He knew, and he did nothing about it for 18 years. I stepped back as if the floor had shifted. Mara reached for me, then stopped herself. Owen, listen to me. Your father was kind. He believed me. He said the tape would ruin too many lives unless I was ready, so he gave it back to me and told me to choose who kept it. But you gave it to me. I was 13, she said, tears finally spilling. I chose you. Then I told your father where I'd put it, so that one grown person in the world would know. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from my mother. Strange question, honey, but did you take your old blue rocket? A woman just came by asking for it. Said she was from your station. Across the ballroom, Brianna's assistant lowered her phone. And Brianna smiled. I ran before I had a plan. Carl ran after me, which was noble until he reached the lobby and remembered he hated exercise. Mara kept pace beside me, her face white, her hand gripping mine so hard it hurt. I didn't let go. In the parking garage, she said, Owen, I'm sorry. Not now. I used you. Not now. I wanted to tell you everything at the bar, but then I saw Bree and I stopped beside my car. Mara, if that rocket is gone, we fight another way. If it's there, we fight with it. But either way, we don't stand here apologizing while your sister rewrites your life again. She stared at me like I'd given back something she thought was permanently lost. Then we drove. 47 minutes became 39. I'm not proud of that, but I stand by it. My mother opened the door in her robe, holding a wooden spoon like she intended to defend the house with soup. Owen, what on earth? Mom, the blue rocket. Her expression changed, not confusion, recognition. Behind me, Mara went still. My mother looked at her for one long second. You're the keen girl. Mara's voice shook. Yes. Mom lowered the spoon. Your father said this day might come. The floor seemed to tilt. She led us to the garage where my father's old radios still lined the shelves. Dusty dials, cracked leather handles, little machines that once pulled voices out of static. Mom reached behind a box of tubes and lifted down a metal lunch tin. Inside was the blue plastic rocket, and under it, an envelope with my name on it. My hands trembled as I opened it. Owen, if Mara ever comes looking for this, believe her first. Questions can come after. I wanted to take it to the police, but she was a child, terrified, and her family had power I did not understand. I made her a copy and gave the original back, because it was hers to spend and not mine. Maybe I was a coward. Maybe I was careful. I have lived with not knowing, but I know this. That girl told the truth. Dad. For a minute, I couldn't speak. All my life, I thought my father was simply quiet. It turned out he had been carrying thunder. Carl arrived 10 minutes later with a station camera operator and a legal consultant he'd apparently dragged out of bed. My mother made coffee because crisis, to her, required caffeine. The rocket's bottom unscrewed with a brittle click. Inside was a tiny cassette wrapped in yellowed tissue. The original. By dawn, our station had verified enough to hold the story. By noon, Carl had 3 lawyers, 2 former investigators, and a retired police captain in a conference room. By 4, Brianna Keene's gala announcement had become something else entirely. She still stepped onto the stage that night. Nobody stopped her. Carl said that the cruelest thing we could do was let her give the speech she came to give. And he was right. She thanked the board. She talked about arts education. She said the words, "My family has always believed." And the room made a sound I have never heard a room make before, not a gasp, more like several hundred people deciding at the same moment to stop pretending. Then the screen behind her lit up because the tape was now evidence, and evidence gets played. This time, it kept running past the 40 seconds. Her father's voice came through the speakers, low and unhurried, saying the foundation money could not be traced back to him, saying Mara was strange enough that people would believe anything about her. And then, under it, thin and 13, "She's my sister." Bree had said that. In the recording, after everything Bree had tried. I looked at Mara, she had gone perfectly still, and I understood that she had never heard the end of it either. She had spent 18 years holding 40 seconds of her sister at her worst, and had just found out there were 9 more of her sister at her best, and that they had not been enough to stop anything. On stage, Brianna heard her own voice at 13 and her face came apart. It was not the mask slipping, it was worse. It was a woman finding out she had once been braver than she had been every day since. She had been a child too. That mattered. It did not make her innocent. The foundation board suspended the grant. Investigators reopened the old case. Reporters camped outside buildings. The Keene name, polished for years, cracked down the middle. Mara didn't celebrate. She sat beside me in the empty hotel bar after midnight, both hands around a glass of water she never drank. "I thought I'd feel free," she said. "You might," I told her, "after you stop feeling exhausted." She looked at me then, really looked. "Do you hate me for coming to find you because of the tape?" "No. You should." "I hated being used for about 20 minutes, I admitted. Then I remembered you were 13 when you trusted me with the truth. I just took 18 years to open my hand." Her mouth trembled into a smile. "So," she whispered, "about that second kiss." I leaned closer. "This time I'd like to know exactly who's kissing me." "Mara Keene," she said. "Difficult. Occasionally reckless. Excellent with lighting. Very tired of being mistaken for someone else." I smiled. "Owen Parker. Slow learner, decent cheekbones. Finally paying attention." When she kissed me, there were no dares, no laughing friends, no wrong names waiting on Monday morning. Just Mara. Just the truth. 6 months later, the Copperfinch bar replaced the old gold lights with softer ones Mara designed herself. My mother framed Dad's letter in our hallway beside a photograph of him holding a radio and smiling like he'd just tuned in a secret. Brianna took a plea deal. Mara testified once, and afterward the two of them stood in the courthouse hallway for maybe 4 minutes, not touching, saying almost nothing I could hear from where I waited. I have never asked what was said. It is the one part of all this that was never mine. A year after that night, Mara opened a small studio where she taught art to kids who thought quiet meant invisible. On the front desk sat the blue plastic rocket, cracked and faded, pointing upward like it still believed in leaving Earth. I want to be accurate about one thing, because this is where a story like this usually starts smoothing itself over. The case took 2 years, not 2 weeks. Most of the foundation money was gone, and stayed gone. And Mara still goes quiet sometimes in the middle of an ordinary evening, and I have learned not to talk her out of it. Some things don't get repaired. You just stop being alone inside them. Sometimes when I wait for her after class, she catches me looking at the rocket. Still thinking about your first kiss? She asks, and I tell her the truth. No, I say, taking her hand beneath the warm studio lights. I'm thinking about the second. Have you ever found out that a memory you built part of yourself on was wrong the entire time? And has anyone ever been braver for you than you knew at the time? Tell me in the comments. And if you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.